So welcome Everton, Zanella, Alvarenga, please.
Okay. So first, really cool that we are in an event with technical talks, and there were 2 women on this stage. This is rare. So it's congratulations for the organizers for the choice. And so I'm going to talk about this little spare time project that is tomorrow is going to complete 2 months. It's an open letter that I wrote for European politicians and leaderships to leave X, and I want to present my arguments here. And the core of my argument is against disinformation campaigns. And I'm focusing on X, but obviously it includes all the other big techs like Meta stuff, Google stuff, and Instagram, and so on. That's from Meta. So I start with this quote from Hannah Arendt from 1950. For sure, you have mostly Germans here. You heard about her. She was one of the people that had to escape the totalitarian regime that we had in Germany. So she says, the ideal subject of totalitarian rules is not convinced Nazi or convinced communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction and the distinction between true and false no longer exists. And that's my main argument here and what's happening with the social media. In the past, and I'm going to start with this disclaimer that I'm a criminal, why I'm going here to talk against the information campaigns. But in the past, when I quit physics, I started to work in a social media platform for University of São Paulo. The idea was to be a decentralized platform. It was parallel when Facebook was started. This was 2006. And in 2009, I decided on the 1st of April to write a news. Actually, a friend of an ex-girlfriend, he wrote a news that University of São Paulo was going to be privatized. I know this was a topic. And I published at the end of 1st of April, as it was a news. But at the end of the day, I put that this was false. There was a disclaimer. Oh, this is just a joke. But people, professors, they met because of this news. It was a fake news, but it was just a joke. And even with the disclaimer, this is false. So this had a real impact. People were worried that University of São Paulo was going to be privatized, and this had a real impact. And what happened? The real impact was, in the end, I had my blog removed. I was one of the developers, together with another bunch of 5 physicists and developers. And at the same time, I had a bet. I was going to give a philosophy book for the person who guessed correctly when the strike was going to happen. It was a bit of irony because of the content strikes and a way to handle some problems. But the point is, it appeared on the news, this bet. The rector of the university got mad, and they deleted my blog. So you see, my point here is that there were consequences to this fake news that I created. I don't recommend to do that. But I was younger, and I want just to make like Google always on 1st of April, create some joke and so on. And as Miriam said, I was more focused at that time on the access to information. My goal was to give people access to educational resources, scientific knowledge, open data, and so on. That's why also I got involved with Open Knowledge Foundation, and in the end, I funded up Open Knowledge Foundation. So at that time, I was involved with Wikimedia and Open Knowledge, and pretty excited with this information society. Everybody was saying, okay, now everybody is going to have access to information, educational research, scientific research, and open access, open data, everything. But this was 15 years ago. And now, since 2017, 2018, I realized that the problem is we are in a disinformation society. That's what you are living now. You are in a disinformation war. And that's what I'm going to speak now. So this is a really nice podcast from New York Times. It's called Rabbit Hole. If my presentation will be in the livex.eu/presentations. you can always click down and you see the reference. There's a link to the podcast. But the author of the podcast, he focuses in this particular on YouTube. He interviews some people who are spreading fake news, people from QAnon. But the main thing here is this rabbit hole effect. Rabbit hole is from the rabbit hole that Alice falls and go to this wonderland. And this is what's happening. All of us addicted to these devices, to the social media, you are going to wonderlands. Want or not, you all have our cognitive bias. Independently if it's correct or wrong where you're going, this addiction we are getting to our mobiles, that is now an extension of our brains, it's having these algorithms are designed to keep the user engaged as long as possible. And I really recommend this. There are, I think, 8 episodes or 6. And it goes into really detail about this effect, rabbit hole. And this is the connection I want to make between disinformation and the far-right movement. This was also, it was around 2017 when I saw that there was a chance of the Brazilian president, Bolsonaro, to be elected. I didn't expect this would be possible because it's like maybe someone here wondered the same, no, AFD cannot grow as much as it grew. Now we had, in 4 years, 6 million of people here supporting hate speech, supporting to kick my ass. I'm immigrant, so I'm one of the main targets. And from 6 million to 12 million, so we have, a few days ago, 12 million people voting for AFD in the land where fascism was most successful, or the fascist. Yeah. In any case, a European country where we have a lot of success with the far right. But here also some reference about it. And what are the real consequences? We have, everybody know, 2021, we have the invasion of Capitol. So we have thousands of people invading the representation of the democracy that is now on the verge of a coup d'etat. Similarly, and just to point out, there's a research, voter fraud, that this is, I read in an article from 2019 where I found this research. There's the link. There were 200 accounts on Twitter, it was still Twitter, and they had the engagement of 140 million tweets. So you see, just these fake bots, and this is 2019, where there was more moderation, where there was more control, and where AI was less advanced as today with generative AI. So nowadays, it's easier to engage into these fake bots that cause impact and brainwash people and mislead people and make people go to the rabbit hole and the wonderland, like these people here. And like these people in Brazil, that the strategy is very similar everywhere. 2023, Brazil, the same. Bolsonaro has lost the election for a few votes. Still, in the first round of the Brazilian election of 211 million people, there are 51 million people who voted for Bolsonaro, even all the bullshit he made during the pandemic. And here, this is real. There are all these people that are wanting to destroy the Brazilian democracy, that we just returned to democracy in 1985. The first elections after 21 years of military dictatorship was 1989. So, and here is, I want to argue, it's mainly based in an article of Mike Kuckets. There's the link here. So, there's this myth that people think that it's necessary to be in the social media to oppose their ideas. But people who are arguing this and staying on the information tools, they don't understand how these algorithms work. And that's exactly the point. A counter-speech on the social media is not effective. These algorithms, they favor polarization content, and you are amplifying this information. Totally what we don't want. And what are and staying on these platforms, you are paradoxically contributing for further dissemination of disinformation. What does these algorithms want? First of all, as you can see in the inauguration of the wannabe autocrat of United States, there were just people from this big techs that got money from your data, from our data. Google, Amazon, X, Bezos, Amazon, who else? The guy from Oracle, I forgot his name. But in any case, these tools, they're profit-oriented, and they prioritize engagement of fair discourse. They use a lot of extreme content, polarization, anger, controversy. Sure, there is the beautiful cat or dogs scrolling that you get also really nice feelings, but essentially this is being used for polarization. And if there is some bullshit being shared, and as you can see, it's so obvious, it's an economy of attention. All the bullshit that Trump or whatever far-right guy is saying is to distract our attention. And they are using these tools for this reason. Why Elon Musk paid $44 billion for X? Well, it's so clear now that he is making the Nazi salute. And in any case, continuing. And leaving X doesn't mean that you're defeated. It's a political statement, and you're saying, I refuse to support these manipulative systems. You're reducing the business model of these platforms that they are based on attention data. And you, by leaving these platforms and engaging into other platforms, like platforms in the Fediverse, like Mastodon that was mentioned today, but there are Pleroma, Mixer, PixelFed, and other tools. People say Blue Sky. I'm not sure if Blue Sky is really decentralized. There's a protocol. But the point thing is to have internet that's interoperable. That's the first lecturer she mentioned. So the idea is that if I'm the person who wants to post audios, podcasts, I want with my profile interact with one guy who posts photos or posts microbloggings or posts a blog. And that's the core idea. We want the internet to be interoperable, like email. At the beginning, I think there are a lot of young people here, but like when I joined the university, I remember it was my first email, and I had the email from the university. And then we have, after Gmail, we have other companies. And this, by having a protocol that enables, independently of which server you have the email, this makes today email still useful. And that's what is the goal, and you are trying to use these decentralized platforms. It's a way for the social media to continue alive and not support these models that are just profit-seeking. And here, my point is, if you abandon these mainstream social media for decentralized alternatives, this will foster genuine discourse and dialogue. You may say, oh, Mastodon is difficult, or Blue Sky, there are not so many people, I'm going to lose my 10,000 followers. It doesn't matter. You have to quit. We have to quit now. Otherwise, well, the far right is growing. The AFD is growing here. And everywhere, in Brazil, in South Latin America, Asia, because I translated to Japanese, the open letter, and there was a tweet someone, oh, we should have this in Japan, otherwise in the next elections we are messed up. And I just I translate into Japanese because I saw that Twitter has the second highest number of users in Japan. Someone found on Mastodon, and I saw this tweet. And to withdraw attention from this manipulative system is crucial. So that's the reason why my opinion is to delete. Some people say I cannot delete because someone can take my username. Doesn't matter. If like politicians, for instance, I go soon to this point, they leave to Mastodon. Journalists is going to see what is, I don't know, the Chancellor of Germany saying on Mastodon or Pleroma or whatever. Where the people go, they're going to remove this attention from these disinformation tools. And why politicians? I mean, I focus on politicians because all the time, although there was this exodus a few years ago, still, when you see on the media, there's X is where politicians are often quoted. And this is problematic because you are using, first of all, a platform that you have to have a login there to have access to the discussions that are being engaged, or even, I think, to access now, you have to have an account. There's alternatives like put X cancel, but still they try to block this. So this is my argument. And there's a really nice article in EU Observer. The analogy is you have a public toilet and you put, it's this, when you have 1 minute in this stinky place. And this journalist, I think it's a really good analogy, is do you want to have your advertising in a public toilet? So, and this is from the carnival in Düsseldorf a few days ago. And this is, you know, the wannabe technocrat dictator in the US with the AfD, the X megaphone, and so on. And I also recommend to read this article. It's really well written and give you a lot of example. For instance, how much the Russian propaganda is being done on X. There is a study from 2023 from the European Parliament showing this. And there is also a website that's covered for these presenters, EU versus Disinfo, that also has some data about this. And my open letter is just one initiative. There's the Hello Quit X that became, I'm going to say soon, Escape X. It started by the biggest research institute in France, SNS. Actually, it's a sub-institute from them. I forgot the name now. But if you enter, you can see. They develop open portability. That you enter openportability.org. It's a tool that if you are still on X, you can migrate your contacts to Blue Sky or Mastodon. And they are developing, improving the tool in order to also bring your mainly liked and shared posts on X. We launched a few days ago Escape X that involved some of these initiatives here mentioned. That we started in Europe. So we have initiatives from Germany. This is another initiative from Germany, Save Social, that's focused on the Fediverse. This is a banner that is in Berlin near Alexanderplatz. So it's also really interesting initiative, Save Social. I think one journalist that's based in Hamburg, Bjorn. There are more than 100 organizations in Spain also. Vámonos Juntas, that are also pushing people to go to the Fediverse and quit X in Spain. Bye Bye Alone in Germany. I don't know how to say that, but Detox. Exactly. From Netherlands. In Netherlands, the numbers are impressive. How many people quit X after this detox campaign and make social again. There's a hashtag. This is from Italian, Ben X in the EU, was activist in Italy. He also joined the Escape X campaign. And so if you enter livex.eu/network, I'm gathering all the like-minded projects that are supporting people to leave X and also other petitions. It was pretty cool that the logo I made, you see at the beginning with this bird dying in the X. Someone in Australia created a petition for universities to quit X, and he used my logo. So it's really cool, like how things are become more international. And by the way, I forgot to mention here X, that's head of communication from the University of Düsseldorf, who made more than 100 German educational and research institutions to leave X, which is quite good in my opinion. He is also the guy pushing Achim. I forgot his surname. I'm really bad with names. But he's pushing a lot for institutions in Germany to leave X. And I want to give an example. In Brazil, because X didn't want to provide some information for the justice of Brazil, X was blocked at the end of last year for a couple of weeks. And now the Supreme Court judge that was responsible for the blocking of X. So there was a big migration of Brazilians. Brazil has the 4th highest number of users still on X, but there are millions of Brazilians migrate to mainly Blue Sky. Unfortunately, I prefer Mastodon, as I said, but it's better than stay on X. And recently, because United States want to block him to enter United States, he said, for the sovereignty of Brazil, for the independence of the judiciary, and for the citizenship of all Brazilians, for we ceased to be a colony on September 7, 1822, and with courage, we are building an independent and ever better republic, independent and democratic, and we are building it with courage. And as the eminent minister Carmen Lúcia, also from the Supreme Court, always remind us, quoting Guimarães Rosa, a Brazilian writer that I also recommend, what life wants for us is courage. And this is from the historian. I read this book recently on tyranny. It's an American historian. Really interesting book. It's where I read The Origin of Totalitarianism of Hannah Arendt, but he recommended other nice books. But he was asked a few days ago in Munich, people were asking to decode what this Vance bullshitter was saying. And he say, in Vance English, free speech means let Musk run your elections. And democracy means let Russia run your elections. Now move on. 2025 is about what Europeans do, not what Americans say. So forget the bullshits and the distraction that Americans are trying to make now that they are partners with Russia. It's what you are going to do. And one of the things is to... 15 years ago, I was saying, give us the raw data now to the governments. Now, this is important still, but you're in another phase. You're in the information society. We have access to information. It's quite important. But now we are in a disinformation war. And so ditch the autocrats' propaganda. Leave X now. That's it.
So, thank you very much. Wenn ihr Fragen habt, auch auf Deutsch, wir übersetzen die dann gerne. Und beide, du bist ja schon mal hier. Der Herr in Rot wartet vielleicht dann als nächstes. Wenn das Mikro nicht leuchtet, dann kannst du sprechen.
Okay, I can talk now. Thank you so much. I think I agree totally. I think for X, the cause is very clear, but I wanted to ask about other social networks. For example, TikTok is also autocrats propaganda. Yes. Yeah, I do not have to make the case. I think you know what I want to say, but I wanted to ask, where do we draw the line? Because I could find lines for Facebook, for Meta, for TikTok, but on the same side, we have to be where the people are. I agree with everything where we are on X, because the case is crystal clear, but what do you think about other networks that have autocratic tendencies as well?
Yeah, for me, the article I based my argument, because I think it's well written, he mentioned exactly X and TikTok. We have the case of the Link here, that we have a social media genius who made the Link resurvive. And she used pretty well in a positive way, in my opinion. But at the same time, that's why we need a collaborative effort of all decent people to leave this corner just for the fascists. And it's like bring everybody out, and it's difficult. For instance, Open Knowledge Foundation Brazil, that I created the Twitter account 13 years ago, had 16,000 followers. Now, I insisted for the director. The previous one, she didn't leave, but the actual one, she left, and the last 3 directors are women. This is also quite positive. They went to Mastodon and Blue Sky, so they have just 66 followers now on Mastodon. And I don't remember how many on Blue Sky, less than 1,000. So you see, it's hard, but in my opinion, we have to do it. And if politicians do it, it's also politicians, we vote for them, we pay for them. I don't vote in Germany, but I can vote for although I'm Brazilian and Italian, I can vote for the EU. So my focus at the moment, there are some next steps I can mention later. I want to develop tools in order to facilitate people to contact politicians on X. I never joined TikTok. I don't know, I know it's this addiction, short videos, and so on. But I would use the same argument. It's the same logic. And it's you read that how much time young Germans are spent on TikTok, or I think TikTok is the most famous here. And the votes for AfD were mostly from young people. And I'm sure there's this influence.
Hi, thanks for the talk. So you mentioned attention, that by leaving X, we make it harder for them to manipulate our attention. So I came across this thesis recently that attention is basically what conveys political power in our social media age. So this is from Ezra Klein, and also Chris Hayes wrote a book about it. If we think this thesis is true, and I think there's a lot to it, then how do we make it possible to use attention in a way that is that makes good politics? Because just by leaving Twitter, it doesn't help if we cannot focus attention in a way that makes good policy. So what would be a way? Is it regulation, or what else could we do?
But that's exactly my point. I believe if everybody leaves, the attention is going elsewhere. Politicians, journalists want to know what politicians are saying. Today, in this trap that when Zelensky went to United States, he was sharing, thankfully, for all politicians on Twitter. So he was using Twitter. We have, European Union has its own server of Mastodon. While Germany has in the federal level and some state level their own servers. In the university, there are several universities, the Freie Universität, they are on Mastodon. So the Fediverse, it's just at the beginning. I joined Twitter 17 years ago. I don't have more account. At the beginning, Twitter, we are using SMS to send. It's just grass. It's just worse than Mastodon today in terms of interaction. It's just like talking to your neighbor. But it improved because there are all these guys thinking about using machine learning, using click and attention to make people more addicted. I asked a friend, she's a researcher, she used a lot of Twitter, she's a sociologist. I asked, why didn't you leave X yet? She said, because of addiction. I asked another friend, why didn't you leave X yet? He said, because there's this information channel that is still there, and they don't leave. And so you see, here's my point. Because these information channels that people are using, like my partner, I asked her, why it took so long to leave X? Because there is this really interesting profile that indeed, and that's, in my opinion, you shouldn't want to bring 10 million, 20 million, 600 million people to the Fediverse. You should bring high quality content.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you very much. We have one more question.
Hey.
I don't know how many we can do. I think two. Two short questions. Discussions afterwards. I think you're very keen on people asking you things and repeating. Yes, thank you.
I think maybe it's because it's quite late, so maybe you stay a little and maybe some of the discussions maybe at the bar.
And just, you can find the contact livex.eu/about. There's an email. I need technical people. I'm really bad with design. As you can see, the logo I made, every help is welcome. I do it in my spare time, and yeah.
How did the people who deleted your blog after you wrote a fake article and said this is a fake article underneath, how did they justify to delete your whole blog? Like, I mean, this is probably a difficult question to answer shortly because it probably just wasn't justified. But I'm wondering how they did that. I mean, how did they just take that away from you after you didn't say anything untrue?
Yes, I and the team, we said sorry for one of the maintainers of this platform to publish a fake news. And they closed all the content, similar to what Twitter or X did now. You need login to access the content. So they just closed everything and closed also, you had a ranking for the most liked posts to appear on the first page. It was very primitive. We were just a bunch of physicists excited by this. But they just closed the platform so people cannot even more publicly complain, because you could make posts complaining. There are a lot of posts. There are blogs of people posting about this case. The biggest newspaper in Brazil came to interview me, but they didn't publish in the end. I don't know, because there is also might have friends in the rector of the university, and so in any case, it was where I met. I joined a research group where I met Volker Grasmuck, that like he said they organized here. But so there's some good things.
Yes, but we have to take in respect everyone that's here. So it's a comment. Yeah. Can we have a riot, please? Can everyone shout in their questions now? Yeah. Oh, that was quite lame. It could have gone a bit louder.
Wir können nicht sprechen.
Yes, also ihr könnt nachher in Ruhe diskutieren. Wir müssen leider, die Kinder müssen ins Bett. Und that's why, one last question for you. What does it need now? Like, what's your next steps? You said you need people. What's your aim?
Well, first, one important thing, I need some non-profit organization to make the petition in person, because in Germany you need the address of people. And it's my name there. I'm just an individual. People say, it's a crazy guy. Who is this guy? Immigrant from Brazil. And if there's a reliable non-profit organization who can take over the petition, then I can go to the streets. And it's petition. I believe in real politics and talking to people in real life. We use social media. There's impact, but politics is done in person. Go talk to the politicians. Go, and what I need is at the moment some technical support, people with design skills, because I'm really bad with I'm not an artist person, or technical people. There I have ideas what to do technically to make this to go to the ears of politicians. And yes, you can contact me. There are a lot of things to do in the website, but yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
okay.
And leave X, obviously.
And leave X, yes. I mean, the digitale... yes. Thank you. Everton, Zanella, Alvarenga. And also the digitale Gesellschaft did it, and they lost nearly 100,000 followers. It's rounded up. I'm making dramatization because of... Yes, but if they can do it, so can you. More than 50,000. 80,000 or 70, who knows? Okay, thank you very much.
Digital courage.
So he's going to be here and you can ask him questions. Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, now. Genau. Geld. Die digitale Gesellschaft ist ja auch Non-Profit, aber die müssen ja auch irgendwie essen und arbeiten und Zeit dafür investieren. Deswegen, wenn ihr möchtet und diese Abende gerne unterstützen wollt, dann spendet gerne an die DigiGuess mit jetzt nicht neu, aber immer noch da, der QR-Code, könnt ihr direkt abscannen. Sie haben X verlassen für euch, also denkt drüber nach, ob und wie viel ihr spenden wollt. Genau, und wir sehen uns nächstes Mal, ist sogar der 1. April, ein wunderschönes Datum. Ja, genau, keine Fake News hier. Also ihr hört es bei uns zuerst. Ach ja, und was ich die ganze Zeit noch sagen wollte, die Toilette vom Rolliklo ist voll funktionsfähig, das Waschbecken nicht so. Genau, also wenn ihr euren Hund baden wollt, könnt ihr es tun. Hände waschen, schwierig. Genau, ansonsten schönen Abend und geht gerne auf die Referenten zu und quatscht mit denen. Bis nächstes Mal. Tschüss.